Rolling with the triple C, I'ma make them bend the knee. Rolling with the triple C, don't really count the heat.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried.
And this is brought to you by Jimmy Bars.
I don't wanna be a slave. I've been doing shit my way.
What's up, everybody? Henry Cejudo here, aka Triple C. Guys, welcome to this episode of The Aftermath, where I'm going to be breaking down UFC 283. Let's start off with the co-main event: Brandon Moreno versus Deiveson Figueiredo. Guys, I tell you what, I didn't get a chance to work with Deiveson in this fight, and you can see a lot of the flaws that he did have in the fight. I think my biggest thing with Deiveson is the fact that I wasn't sure if his recovery kind of came in. Recovered as well as he probably should have. It was pretty. I'm sure he made the weight right, but did he actually really recover? The other thing too with Deiveson Figueiredo is a lot of it. Where he made a lot of errors was his distance. He got a little too emotional, looking too much for that right hand, where it was too much here. So by the time Deiveson got here, Brandon was already throwing or looking for the takedown. So he never really stayed disciplined with the leg kicks. He was crossing distance a little too much when he was getting emotional, when he was actually telegraphing, and then either Brandon was able to hit him with shots or look for the takedowns. Boom. You see, a lot of those, this is why you having like a good structured team and having people hold you accountable is key in a world championship fight. I wasn't there. I spoke to him, at least 3 times before he even competed. Like the whole pretty much 2.5 months that he was preparing for this fight. But if I was to go back and tell Deiveson what is it that he should have probably done is the same game plan you did for the third fight, you probably should have gone for the 4th. But at the same time, as Brandon did do a good job of recognizing what is it that Deiveson was going to throw that right hand to eventually go to his doubles or to eventually find his chest locks and do it of that nature. This is why it's not about the combination, it's all about the entries. Can you anticipate a lot of what is it that your opponent's actually going to give you? You got to give credit where credit's due. Brandon beat him 3 rounds to 0 before the fight was eventually stopped. Do I still believe Deiveson could do something? Yeah, with the right team, what we did here, 100%. But it is what it is. That chapter is closed. I do believe Deiveson Figueiredo is going to be going up to 135 pounds. And Brandon's going to have a tough one with Alexander Pantoja, who had a chance to coach too. So there's more drama for you guys coming. Pantoja is 2-0 against him, finished him 1 time, and then beat him up the 2nd time that they fought. And who knows, that may still be Brandon's kryptonite, because I know how bad Alexander Pantoja wants it. He knows where to take the fight, so I do believe that's next for Brandon. If there's any other way that Alexander Pantoja doesn't get this fight, man, that's just like, that would just be plain wrong. You're 0-2 against this guy. This guy's the #1 contender in the world. I think it's time for him to give him a shot. And, allow these flyweights to continue to keep flourishing. The flyweight division was a chopping block not too long ago, and now it's one of the hottest divisions in the UFC. A lot of good drama. You got Mexico, who is the current champ. So there's so much room for a lot of these guys to continue to keep growing and bringing more storylines to the flyweight division. And now for the main event, Glover Teixeira versus Jamahal Hill. I mean, I tell you what, there's one thing that Glover Teixeira has is he's got heart. For the age of 43 years old, to be able to take a lot of those right hands, which is what Jamahal Hill was hitting. Everything with Jamahal Hill was all right. Everything was right. He was tipping the body too. He was attacking the body like whether he was either tipping it or he was throwing those heavy right kicks. And it's what made his youth is what pretty much won him, because Jamahal Hill did throw a lot of power. He wasn't able to finish Glover Teixeira in 5. Kudos to Mark Goddard. Mark Goddard was able to give that guy time, because I think any other referee would have stopped it. But I think Mark Goddard did a good job of knowing that this is Glover's last fight. He's been in these battles before. He was still receptive. He was still able to move and actually throw. But that fight just showed a lot of heart. But there was a one round where Glover did get the takedown on Jamahal Hill. He ended up mounting him, but I just feel like it was just a little too late with the sweat, with the blood, and everything. And then eventually, once it got sweaty, as he was in mount, Jamahal Hill ended up escaping, coming out through the back. And once the fight came up to its feet, the threshold was already drained. Glover Teixeira didn't have that pop as he did, and I think Glover could have done even though he was trying to wrestle, I think he could have done a better job of maybe just wrestling, just stay on his legs the whole time for the first 2 rounds, and I think that would have really paid dividends. So kudos to Glover Teixeira for his retirement, and Jamahal Hill is a new light heavyweight champion of the world, but you have to defend it. You have to defend it because this fight was almost like a sweepstakes. It was like because of Jan and the Russian Ankalaev, because they went into a draw. They just started to make a world champion out of this next fight, and I think that's just not fair. As the current champ is sitting out, so makes you think that anybody become a UFC champion. It really does. This is why I always go back and say being an Olympic champion is like you don't get lucky becoming that. You could get lucky becoming, or you could be in the right opportunity to become a UFC champion. But anyways, congratulations to Jamahal Hill. Now you got to defend it against either Yuri Prochazka or Ankalaev or the Polish Power. And I think that's your next fight. And now I would like to go over the one and only the co-main event, Gilbert Burns versus Neil Magny. Neil Magny had no chance. I thought Neil Magny could have done something maybe in the striking department, but it was an easy fight for Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns did a good job. If you guys want to roll the tape there, how he throws that right hand to eventually gets in closer, finds that chest lock, gets him down, starts working, does a really good job of controlling the upper hip, the upper body here. This is where Gilbert, like he never got below his hips, where he was just up in his body, controlling here, controlling with his legs, and just trapping him here to eventually look for mount, continue the ground and pound, get him to defend, to eventually look for that triangle choke. And that is all she wrote. Getting the tap. I think Gilbert Burns, I think the next logical fight for him, and he's been calling it, is Colby Covington. I think a fight between him and Colby Covington, or them doing the Ultimate Fighter, would be absolutely money. They would be able to able to sell the fight. 2 guys that kind of fight similar. Now you're getting ready. I want to see whose strength is it that's better, because they both fight very, very similar with striking and takedowns. And I love to see a 5-round fight between those two and see who is it that has the best grappling game. So you guys, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys just watched UFC The Aftermath with your host, Henry Cejudo, aka Triple C, and we will deliver. Big shout out to Jimmy Bosch for sponsoring this event, but we are out. So thank you guys again for watching. It means a lot to me. So you guys remember, there's more breakdown, there's more technique, there's more tactics, and there's definitely more cringe. So make sure to subscribe and click on that button. I'm out!